Hi, this is Elizabeth Minchilli, and I'm taking over the Feedfeed's Snapchat feed today from Rome, Italy. I'm American, but I've been living here in Rome for, well, off and on since 1972, so that gives you a bit of an idea how long, maybe how old I am. For most of my career, I was a journalist. I wrote for magazines like Food and Wine, Town and Country, Bon Appetit, Svor, and I'm also the author of 7 books. But for the last, I guess, 6 years, I've been writing on my blog most of the time, Elizabeth Minchilli in Rome. During my journalistic career, I wrote a lot about design and architecture as well as food and travel, but on my blog I mostly just write about food. And here's my blog, and you can see it's a mixture of recipes, but I also write a lot about restaurants, so it's about 50% recipes, 50% restaurant reviews. I am also the author of a best-selling app called Eat Italy, and Eat Italy is available on iTunes, and it's a free app. Within that app are different city guides. I've written guides to Rome, Venice, Florence, Umbria, Milan, and Torino is coming soon. And as I said, I'm the author of 7 books. My most recent book is called Eating Rome, Living the Good Life in the Eternal City. Here's my book, Eating Rome, Living the Good Life in the Eternal City. It's a bit of mixture of everything. Of course, there's a lot of recipes, but it's also part memoir and also has lots of photographs, which I took myself, and also guides to restaurants here in Rome. So anyway, when the Feedfeed said I could take over their feed, I couldn't decide what I wanted to make because there's so much good Italian food, right? So I thought, why not make a whole meal? And that's what I'm going to do, and I hope I'm going to go through it pretty fast so you guys don't get bored. I'm going to make something, a typical meal, an Italian meal that I would make at home that I think you all could easily make at your own home. We're going to start out with an antipasto of fried sage leaves, then we're going to have carbonara, main course is meatballs, and we're going to have a ricotta crostata for dessert. Got that? Take a screenshot? Anyway, I know it's a lot, but I'm going to be referencing my blog, my book, and also my YouTube videos as we go along so that you can follow. Anyway, so I'm going to go down to the kitchen and we'll start cooking. I'm in the kitchen now, and so the one thing I forgot to tell you guys, we're not doing the things in order. We're not doing the antipasto, pasta, secondo, and then dessert. First thing we're going to make is dessert because the dessert has to be baked, and we're going to start out with the ricotta raspberry crostata. I probably make crostatas more than almost anything else I make. It's so easy. It's a tart, but the crust is sort of a short crust. Once you make the crostata, most crostate in Italy are filled with jam, just a jar of jam. I'm going to be making a variation on this. It's a ricotta jam crostata. Also, since a crostata has so few ingredients, it really matters what the quality of the ingredients is, and by changing just one of them, it completely changes the finished dish. Ingredients. The most important thing in a crostata is high quality butter. This is Danish butter. I don't use Italian butter. Italian butter is just not that good. And I like using a whole grain in my crust. This is one I've been using recently that I got at the supermarket. It's very good. You can experiment using part white flour, part whole grain. There are also 2 egg yolks, sugar, and salt. As I said, most traditional crostate are only filled with jam, and I got this beautiful jar of raspberry jam at the farmer's market. I'm going to do a ricotta jam tart, and here's this beautiful sheep milk ricotta that I also got at the farmer's market this weekend. The other thing you need, which is essential, is a tart pan with a removable bottom. See, the bottom comes up, and this is a 10-inch removable bottom tart pan. I've covered that tart pan with parchment, see? Just cut it in a circle to fit into the pan. Now you can find all the ingredients and the quantities on my blog, Elizabeth Minchilli in Rome, Ricotta Raspberry Chocolate Crostata. I just took a screenshot of the ingredients and the quantities. It's just going to be a little different because I'm using jam and swirling it in rather than using fresh raspberries and chocolate. Also, one important thing that you'll be very happy to hear because it makes it even easier is that I'm not pre-baking the crust. I've done this and I've pre-baked it, I've not pre-baked it, and it's the same. I've put the flour in a big bowl, made a well in the center, put the egg yolks, butter, sugar, and salt in the center of that well. This is where it gets fun. I'm just going to mush, by the way, it's softened butter. I'm just going to mush up the sugar and the butter first, and then slowly mix the flour in. It's mostly mixed in. I'm just going to dump it on the counter and mush it around until it's completely mixed in. There you go, it's all mixed in. Now I'm just going to flatten it into a disc and lift that up and put it right in the pan like that. It's kind of the consistency of Play-Doh, and you just want to now mush it all out until it completely covers the pan. And don't worry if you see bits of butter. There it is, all mushed out into the shell, and you can see it's not perfect, but it kind of doesn't matter. Once the filling's in, it'll be very good. And here's the filling. I put a cup and a half of ricotta, 1 whole egg, and 3/4 cup of sugar. I'm going to beat that up till it's smooth with a fork. And now I'm just going to pour the ricotta, which you can see is all mixed up, right into the crust. Now I'm going to swirl some of this raspberry jam into the ricotta tart. What you want to do is take spoonfuls and drop it in. So you can see I've just distributed it pretty evenly, and now I'm just going to kind of swirl it in, and you really don't have to be that worried about how it looks. It's going to all sort of melt together at the end and look beautiful and taste even better. Okay, I just put that in using 2 hands into a preheated oven. And that's at 180 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes. So while the crostata's cooking, I cleaned up the kitchen a bit, and now we're going to make the meatballs. You can find the recipe for Minchilli meatballs in my book, Eating Rome. Here's the meat. Although the original recipe calls for a mixture of veal and chicken and pork, I've used a mixture of beef and sausage meat. We're going to add to that 1 egg, breadcrumbs, about a half an onion, a few cloves of chopped garlic, and some Parmesan cheese. We're also going to season it with salt and pepper. Now, one of the main ingredients is olive oil. Olive oil goes inside the meatballs. Don't skimp on this ingredient. It makes all the difference. Please, please, please use olive oil. It's about a pound of meat, a little over a pound, and look at how much olive oil I'm adding. I know it seems like a lot, but it's going to make it taste wonderful. Fun part, just mix it all up. You'll see it'll all mix in, and that's what's going to make the meatballs. All mixed in, and now what I'm going to do is make little sort of walnut-sized meatballs. Next time you see these are all going to be meatballs. Crostata's done. It smells delicious. You can see the crust turned golden, and the ricotta's pretty firm. Anyway, I'm going to let that cool off while I finish doing the meatballs. Here they are, all my little meatballs. They made about 18, and now what I'm going to do is brown them in this pan. And you see, I didn't put much olive oil in the pan. Because what's going to happen is I cook them, some of the olive oil from the meatballs themselves will come out, but it'll taste wonderful because it'll have been mixed with all the seasonings and the meat itself. The meatballs have browned pretty well. You see they don't brown evenly, but that's okay. They also flatten out a bit and lose their ball-like shape, but that's okay too. You have to be a little bit careful flipping them over because you don't want them to fall apart. But even if some fall apart, they'll just make the sauce more delicious. Now what I'm going to do is take this bottle of beautiful tomato puree and just pour it into the pan. And you can see it's kind of sizzling. What you want to do is carefully scrape up some of the bits from the bottom that have stuck, but don't break the meatballs. I'm turning that down to a low simmer. I'm going to put the top on and let that cook for about 20 minutes. Okay, fun fact. Did you know spaghetti and meatballs is not an Italian thing? It's an Italian-American thing. Italians don't eat spaghetti and meatballs. They eat the meatballs as the main course, and then the sauce might go on the pasta the next day, although we're going to just eat the sauce with the meatballs. Instead, we're going to make a completely different pasta, spaghetti carbonara. And for spaghetti carbonara, of course, we need spaghetti, eggs, grated pecorino and Parmesan cheese. And the most important ingredient is pork. This is guanciale, which is cured pork jowl. You can also use pancetta, which is belly, or bacon if you want. You can find all the ingredients listed on the video I made of how to make carbonara on my YouTube channel. And I'd love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. So now I'm going to cut up this guanciale into little cubes and we'll start making the pasta. I cut up all that beautiful guanciale into cubes and now I'm going to put it into the pan and let that cook slowly until the fat renders out of it. These are 3 egg yolks and 1 whole egg, and I'm going to put them into the bowl full of the grated cheese. I'm going to mix that up. You can see I've mixed that up and it's quite thick, but don't worry, I'm going to add some of the pasta cooking water to this to sort of thin it out just a bit. I'm going to add black pepper now. Guanciale is now beautifully browned, and I'm going to be taking it out of the fat, but I'm going to be using a bit of the fat in the final pasta. A pot of water to boil, and now I'm going to add a handful of salt. And I'm adding the pasta, and that's 400 grams of pasta for 4 people. Now you just have to make sure it gets all down in the water. I use a fork for that. Okay, the pasta's in the water, it's boiling. I'm going to make the carbonara. I made the meatballs. I made the crostata. But it's all taken me a little bit longer than I had anticipated, and I don't have time to make the fried sage leaves. I'm so sorry. I hope you guys forgive me. My daughters are in the next room yelling, make sage leaves, but sorry. I'm just going to leave you with this fried sage leaf recipe from my blog, and I'll make the fried sage leaves on my own Snapchat feed, if that's okay with you, when I have more time and it's not as hot in the kitchen. The pasta's almost finished cooking. I'm going to take a bit of the pasta water and add it to the eggs. Sorry, I can't do this with one hand because I have to stir it while I'm adding the water, so you'll see it all mixed in. Okay, see how nice and creamy that got? I added about 3/4 of a cup of the hot water. Okay, getting 1 more cup of pasta water because you just never know if you're going to need some at the very end. I drained the pasta and now I'm going to add a bit of this bacon guanciale fat onto the pasta and top. And you want to stir that up very well. Sorry about the light changing. That's the Roman light, changing all the time. And now I'm going to add the egg in and mix that very fast. And finally, also the guanciale, and mix that as well. Tastes really good. Of course, I just tasted it. And one thing I forgot to tell you is carbonara does have raw eggs. These are not cooked eggs. So if you're pregnant or for any reason not eating raw eggs, carbonara is probably not for you. But if you don't care, it's really good. So you can see that the egg and the cheese and the fat made a sauce that just coats it. Anyway, I'm going to go serve this. You don't get any pico. Carbonara's ready, you guys. You can come to the table. Looks good. That's Sophie. Say hi, Sophie. Hi. And Sophie's friend Amanda.
Hello.
And Emma.
Hi.
I'm back in the kitchen, and the meatballs turned out beautifully. This is what we're going to have as our second course. You can see there is a lot of oil. We'll be sopping that up with bread. Thanks for joining me today. I'm glad you got to meet my daughters, Sophie and Emma, and Pico, my dog, and our friend Amanda. And I hope that you'll keep following me on Snapchat. I'm Minchilli on Snapchat and also Minchilli on Instagram and on Twitter. Oh my god, I completely forgot to show you guys the finished crostata, and I just went in the kitchen to get it and put it on a plate, and Emma had already attacked it. Anyway, here it is, looking a little crumbly around the edges because somebody did not know how to take it out of the pan, and missing a huge piece, Emma. But looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to go have a piece now. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to the Feedfeed for letting me in and taking over their Snapchat today. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. And if you'd like to do it too, you can. Just send them a snap and let them know your name and what you'd like to cover on their feed. I'm sure they'd love to have you. And in the meantime, hope to see you on mine. Thanks. Bye. Ciao from Rome. I'm signing off now, and have a great day. Ciao.